Coming up on AGWEEK TV, the Proposition 12 case moves forward to the Supreme Court. We'll find out what it means for the entire ag industry. Barley growers look at the pet food market as a lucrative alternative. We'll find out what farmers intend to plant this spring with high commodity prices heating up the acreage battle. And North Dakota State vet students give kids a chance to be a vet. Welcome to AGWEEK TV. I'm Michelle Rook. The U.S. Supreme Court has decided to hear the case against California's Proposition 12, filed by the American Farm Bureau and National Pork Producers Council. It prohibits the sale of pork from hogs born to sows not raised under the state's highly prescriptive housing standards. Minnesota Pork CEO Dave Pricer says the NPPC has waged a legal battle against the ballot initiative since it was approved in November 2018, arguing at the U.S. District and Appellate Court levels that Prop 12 violates the Constitution's Commerce Clause.
And it's basically that a state can go ahead and regulate a whole host of things within their state, but they can't necessarily, at least that's what the arguments will be, they can't necessarily go outside their state.
He says this is an important case for not only pork producers, but all of agriculture.
If you have a successful route for things like this to happen, we'll see other agricultural practices challenged too.
He says NPPC and AFBF will file initial briefs in the coming weeks, but the High Court may not hand down a decision until the end of 2022. Some farmers in the region have already started early seeding of small grains into dry soils. The latest drought monitor still shows nearly 2/3 of South Dakota in some level of drought. SDSU Extension State Climatologist Laura Edwards says the outlook for the rest of the spring planting season isn't encouraging either.
As we look ahead, it looks like continued warm and dry conditions are favored for almost all of South Dakota for April through June.
Edwards says that's a concern because 40% of the moisture for the year comes in that time period. And beyond that, there's a higher probability of warmer and drier conditions all the way through August. She says La Nina has continued to hang on, which is unusual as it usually starts to fade by March. USDA's prospective plantings report was bullish for corn, with farmers intending to plant 3.87 million fewer acres than last year. Some of those acres shifted into soybeans, with intentions up 3.8 million acres from 2021 at a record 91 million acres. All wheat acres were also up 700,000, with a 2% increase in winter wheat, but a 2% decrease in spring wheat. Quarterly stocks on corn were up 16 million bushels over last year. Soybeans were around 370 million bushels higher, with wheat stocks tighter by 290 million bushels. Joining us with analysis are Frank Olson and Randy Martinson. Well, the biggest surprise in the report, 91 million acres of soybeans, which is a record, and one of the few times we see soybean acres above corn, right?
Yeah, it has. There was one other year where we did have at least the initial prospective plantings report where soybeans were above corn, but by the time we got to actually putting seed in the ground, it did flip back, so corn was still the dominant crop. Again, really big surprise. We were expecting a shift. The shift was much larger than I think anybody anticipated.
And out of corn, almost 3.8 million acres, so almost a one-to-one shift here, Randy, and obviously some of that because of fertilizer prices?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was that. And then when you look at as far as the Corn Belt's concerned, it was almost a one-for-one shift going over to soybeans, which they're taking away some of their the corn-on-corn acres and putting in soybeans to kind of lower their input costs. It was a little bit of a surprise. I didn't expect to see corn acres take such a hit or soybeans increase as much. Now it's going to be interesting to see how things go from here. So
do you guys think we're going to have to buy some corn acres now?
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be an incentive to try and shift some of those acres back, to try and rebalance. And if these numbers had come out before the Russia-Ukraine war, or if that hadn't happened, I think the numbers would probably stick. But given the dynamics and the shifts because of the war, the corn acres are going to be at a premium this year. I think we're going to have to try and rebalance, and the market's going to work very hard to do that.
What's it going to take to get to that? Because we already have the corn to soybean ratio favoring corn.
It's going to have to work pretty hard, as Randy was saying. Some of those are going to be corn on corn acres, or we're going to have to buy them against some of the smaller market crops, some of the specialty crops, which have already been contracted. So the corn market's going to have to work pretty hard to make sure that we get that shift occurring.
So all wheat acres were up about 700,000 acres, but we were down in spring wheat much more than the trade anticipated. And Randy, I got to give you credit because I know you called that one early on.
Well, and it made sense. It didn't look like wheat was out there trying to buy acres, and we had such, like Frank mentioned, such good contracts on a lot of the specialty crops, barley, sunflowers, canola, peas. So everything was out there trying to buy acres, and spring wheat with the higher costs of putting it in with the fertilizer just didn't add up. So it made sense that we were going to see a little bit of a downward trend as far as spring wheat acres are concerned. I was surprised as it was big as it was, and I was surprised that durum acres got a little bit more because there really wasn't an incentive to plant durum.
So what price will it take to get a few acres of spring wheat? We're going to need more, so what's the function of the market now?
I think right now we're going to have to take this market back up to the contract highs to try to get acres.
So quarterly stock's not as big of a market mover just because a lot of these numbers came in pretty close to trade estimates, but we still have an increase in soybean quarterly stocks by like 370 million bushels. But Frayne, it's because of when we took the surveys?
Correct. So since the survey was taken, the industry-based survey was taken, we have seen a pretty nice rebound or recovery in soybean exports, not only to China, but also to Mexico. And those numbers for these kind of off-season sales, the sales we normally don't get at this time of year, will really be reflected then in that July 1 report.
And wheat quarterly stocks down 290 million bushels, which is a little surprising. I know we had a smaller crop, but exports have not been that good, have they, Randy?
Not in wheat, they haven't been, no. And we need to, it's likely USDA is going to have to decrease wheat exports. And so, yeah, I think it's primarily due to maybe a little bit of wheat going into the feed ration more than we anticipated, and then also because of the smaller crop.
Thanks so much, Randy Martinson, Frayne Olson with our AGWEEK market analysis. Every acre will be important this year with the loss of acres in the Black Sea region due to the war. As a result, farm groups, including the American Farm Bureau and the National Feed and Grain Association, are pressuring USDA to allow farmers to plant on more than 4 million prime CRP acres without penalty. They say it would result in another 18.7 million tons of grain and help to fill the likely lack of corn, wheat, and sunflower oil coming from Ukraine. Meanwhile, the EU is allowing about 5% of its set-aside to be planted without penalty. Ahead on AGWEEK TV, barley is the key ingredient in beer, but it turns out it's good for your pets too. We'll explain after this.
Since the inception of Vaterstadt, the spirit of innovation has led the company. We push the limits, providing innovative and reliable seeding and tillage solutions that simplify everyday life for farmers. We continue to reimagine the capabilities and technology behind farm machinery, providing customers with a perfect emergence while maximizing their yields. We look forward to growing together.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Growing up as a kid, Gateway was always the grain bin building and the grain handling people that were out in our area. One of the reasons we chose to go with Gateway was they're the leader in the industry and they are the #1 Brock dealer in the United States. We've really liked the Brock design and some of the designs that Gateway has come up with throughout the years. My best advice would be to just put your trust in them and let them come up with the design that's going to fit your needs.
The team at North Star Ag is committed to quality and committed to you. We're not just a full-service dealer, we're farmers too, so we know you need the best machinery and services that'll keep you going all season long. We have the largest equipment inventory in the upper Midwest with a well-equipped parts and service department. So whether you need machinery tomorrow or parts today, stop in and experience what North Star Ag can offer. On our website at northstar-ag.com or give us a call at 701-361-4790.
Every season has an end. After spending your whole life building something, it can be hard to move on to your next stage in life. But when that time comes, you deserve to have someone you trust guide you through the process. And by trusting us to pass on your legacy, it gives someone else the chance to create their own. Every auction has a story. Let us share yours.
The best barley isn't just for beer anymore. Your pets can enjoy it too. Rose Dunn joins us now to explain in this week's AgWeek cover story.
When we think of barley, we think of beer, but this may surprise you. Up to 30% of the barley grown in North Dakota and Minnesota is sold to pet food companies. The use of barley in pet food started growing about 7 years ago for several reasons. It's high in protein, high in fiber, and it's known as a carbohydrate that doesn't make pets jittery like some other carbs do. That makes it a preferred ingredient over corn and rice. Barley acreage had dropped steadily in the past few decades as corn and soybeans have grown. While barley production is down about 90% off a record 184 million bushels set in 1984, Steve Edwardson of the North Dakota Barley Council says the pet food boost is good for the barley industry.
For growers in a given region, that's significant for them. And again, I can't stress enough that it's a very good outlet.
Several pet food manufacturers around the region contract with North Dakota and Minnesota farmers for their barley.
Thanks, Rose. Remember, you can read more on this story in the next AgWeek magazine or at agweek.com. 2 grain traders are facing fines in South Dakota for operating in the state without a license. The South Dakota Public Utilities Commission says Crossroads Cooperative of Sidney, Nebraska made more than 700 illegal grain purchases over 2+ years. South Dakota allows a fine of $1,000 for each violation, but the penalty is capped at $20,000 pending PUC approval. Atlantic Grain and Trade of South Carolina, with offices in Chaska, Minnesota, was fined $10,000 for buying about 70 train car loads of grain without a license. Minnesota has confirmed its first cases of highly pathogenic avian flu, activating a federal emergency response team. A team of USDA emergency responders will work with Minnesota's Agricultural Incident Management Team to quarantine infected flocks in affected counties and watch for more disease. The head of Minnesota's Board of Animal Health says the virus is different than in 2015 as it's coming earlier, even before the main bird migration takes place. She says this is a very hot virus.
So viruses, as they move their way through the different species, this avian influenza virus, it becomes more adapted the more it's in a certain species.
However, Thompson's hopeful with the strong biosecurity measures adopted in 2015, they'll be able to keep the disease contained. Minnesota is the nation's top turkey state, producing 40 million birds each year. On Wednesday, North Dakota also reported its first cases in wild and domestic birds in Kidder County. There's some good news on the trade front for cattle producers. The U.S. and Japan have reached an agreement to increase the beef safeguard trigger on Japan's imports of U.S. beef. It includes a new 3-trigger mechanism that makes it less likely U.S. exports will reach levels to trigger the higher tariff. It also puts U.S. beef on a level tariff playing field with major competitors in the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. This week's quarterly Hogs and Pigs report was bullish and continues to confirm contraction in the U.S. herd, with all categories below 2021. The March 1 hog inventory, kept for breeding and kept for marketing numbers were all at 98% of a year ago and below trade expectations. The farrowing intentions were also down from 2021 by 1 to 2%, with the weight breakdowns on hogs at 120 pounds and above coming in 4% below 2021. Coming up on AgWeek TV, a brand new camp gives kids the opportunity to see if vet life is up their alley.
Small or large, Superior Grain Equipment has the storage, conditioning, and handling equipment to fit any size operation with a wide variety of options and accessories, including our patented Blockbuster auger to help break up blockages over the center sump gate, and a full line of mixed flow grain dryers with even heating, excellent efficiency, and expandable capacities. Protect your investment and market your grain. Get superior quality, protection, and reliability with Superior Grain Equipment.
We have products that no other companies have. That gives us a bit of an advantage and a bit of an edge, and it provides some security to our customer base that we've been here, we're here to stay, and we want to still provide these new innovations to the customers today. It's cold granulated products where we're putting together multiple nutrients. We've got products in our Micro Essentials lineup that contain sulfur and zinc, and we also have products on our potash side which contain boron, which is a newer product for us, which is called Aspire.
Systems way. Good work, good pay, in a good life, lets me live my way. Good work, good pay, in a good life, trans systems way. Good work, good pay, in a good life, it lets me live my way. It's the trans systems way. Good work.
For over 130 years, Farmers Mutual of Nebraska has been providing protection from the unexpected. Farmers and ranchers choose Farmers Mutual insurance coverage for their industry experience, prompt claim service, and unmatched financial strength. Experience an insurance plan that's customized for your operation. Visit fmne.com to contact an agent for a quote today. Farmers Mutual of Nebraska, always alongside you.
For AGWEEK, this is Mikkel Pates at Watertown, South Dakota.
We'll look at the positive impacts that dairy can have on the community.
A Minnesota couple has put a grain bin to a new use. Spoiler alert, it's not grain.
This elaborate system of tubing with the downhill slope is how Maplewood State Park gathers sap to make syrup.
Thanks for joining us for this week's edition of AgWeek TV. Remember, for all your ag news, go to agweek.com or follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Some areas of the region received some welcome precip this week, which will be needed with a drier long-term outlook for a lot of our region. Here's John with our AgriWeather outlook.
Calendar turns to April, thoughts turn to spring across the northern plains, upper Midwest. We have had a bit of a cooling pattern, which is not unusual after some early warmth getting up into the plains. We'll talk about how far north warm temperatures are likely to get over the next couple of weeks. Snow, of course, has fallen recently in the far northern parts of the area, and there may be a little more, although I don't expect nearly so much this time. And as far as the main areas of rain or really any type of significant precipitation, that's going to go mostly east and then later along the west coast in the second part of the forecast period. Jet stream has gone to more of a meandering west to east pattern. We've lost a lot of that really high amplitude that we had. Colder weather, of course, north of the jet, warmer weather to the south. Texas is starting to heat up at times. Florida, really only the south part of the peninsula, although it looks like we will have some near 90-degree weather getting up into the northern part for at least a couple of days this week. Northern Plains, Great Lakes is where it's cool. That's because we're going to start to see some troughiness getting carved out in the jet stream level over the eastern U.S. But out west, the warmth will be rising, and you're going to see some really warm air getting up into central and northern California, and some pretty mild weather getting up into the Pacific Northwest. Toward the end of the week, though, that will change as we start seeing troughing coming down from the west, and this big low-pressure air in the east begins to lose some of its punch, and so we're back to west to east flow with mostly the cold weather limited across the north. The second week of the pattern, not a whole lot of change. We're going to start to see this low-pressure trough coming out, which will bring some colder weather into the Pacific Northwest, also very likely some rain and some interior snows. And this little brief period may bring a day or two of some very warm temperatures up into the central plains. I look for that to be a temporary aberration, but as you'll see in a moment, that may have some long-range significance, and it may be a pattern that repeats itself. This first week of the period, I look for some wet weather over the eastern part part of the United States. Maybe a little bit of light snow or rain in the north around the midweek. I don't expect a lot out of that. Pacific Northwest looks like it will get fairly wet, and the Southwest does definitely look on the dry side. In the second week, that dryness, remember the hot weather coming up into the Central Plains? Well, that's also going to be dry weather into the Central Plains. The rainy weather over the eastern United States, at least that is above average, will get shrunk quite a bit. In other words, I don't think there'll be that much rain in the middle part of April in the Corn Belt. The Pacific Northwest will finally start getting some rains down into California. Now, this warm and dry weather in the Central Plains is significant. The U.S. Drought Monitor at this point, which is an overall look at dry conditions, is showing that this Great Plains right now is an area of concern. It's not as dry as it was last spring, but from Montana down through the central and southern plains, things are going into growing season just a little dry.
Is your crop insurance working for you? Are you using your crop insurance to help market your production? There have been a lot of improvements to crop insurance to help maximize guarantees. To see what crop insurance can really do for you, call the professionals at Martins & Ag. Each of our insurance specialists have over 25 years of individual experience in the crop insurance industry, both on the company level and the producer level. Martins & Ag, they know risk management.
Auctionblock.com. First with online equipment auctions in 1999. First in worldwide registered users. Auctionblock.com. Online farm, construction, and transportation equipment auctions every Wednesday. Sell with the leader. Call Auction Block today, 218-483-7880, or visit us online at auctionblock.com.
When the water's high and your yields are low, 'cause your fields have no place for water to flow, just one call takes care of it all. Call on Field Drainage Incorporated. Call on Field Drainage Incorporated. Call on Field Drainage. The experts in the field.
Small or large, Superior Grain Equipment has the storage, conditioning, and handling equipment to fit any size operation with a wide variety of options and accessories, including our patented Blockbuster auger to help break up blockages over the center sump gate, and a full line of mixed flow grain dryers with even heating, excellent efficiency, and expandable capacities. Protect your investment and market your grain. Get superior quality, protection, and reliability with Superior Grain Equipment.
We're going to talk today about a revolutionary auto steer product that you guys have developed.
We back one of these things in, it'll drain a 40-acre patch just within hours.
What can you tell us about what dairy farmers do to make sure that their animals are happy?
Their care is our primary concern.
Is there still time for producers to get storage bins up?
Absolutely. We still can definitely get something up and ready for corn harvest.
Lots of kids say they want to be a veterinarian when they grow up, and now NDSU is giving them the chance to check it out. The university's pre-vet club held its first I Want to Be a Vet kid camp recently. Our Emily Beal was there and has more.
Michelle, this was definitely a day for children who have an interest in animal health and learning about being a veterinarian.
There's a very good reason Faith Schwab wanted to take part in NDSU's I Want to Be a Vet camp for kids.
Because I love animals.
She thinks this camp can give her a head start in a career working with animals, and her mom agrees.
My daughter loves animals. She loves every type of animal there is.
So she arranged for her daughter and some of her 4-H friends to attend the camp as a birthday surprise.
She wants to grow up and be a vet. So this seemed like the perfect start to have her do what she loves and see if she wants to still move that direction.
The camp was geared for children from 7 to 12. Kids learned a little bit about a broad range of animal cares. Organizers from NDSU's Pre-Vet Club say it's a great way for kids to get a taste of vet life.
Dude, you want to come over here and look at his hoof?
Especially for those who don't grow up around animals.
I know every kid is like, I want to be a vet when I'm older, but I think it's important for them to learn
kind of what else kind of goes into it, so that they know it's not just petting and seeing animals all day. So it's kind of learning the injections and how to like medicate and learn the wraps and x-rays and stuff like that.
Aurora hopes to be a large animal vet someday, something that's in very short supply right now.
Because my auntie's a vet and because I like helping animals.
This was the camp's first year, and more than 60 kids attended.
Thanks, Emily. Still ahead on AgWeek TV, where they're learning about the region's top industry.
Don't miss out on the equipment you'll need next season. Titan Machinery, your local Case IH dealer, has early order discounts on its full line of powerful, efficient, new Case IH equipment, including tractors, combines, and self-propelled sprayers. Get a great deal and ensure that you have the latest in productivity and technology. Supply chains are tight. Contact your Titan Machinery dealership today and find out how much you can save by ordering ahead. Titan Machinery, your local Case IH equipment experts.
Every season has an end. After spending your whole life building something, it can be hard to move on to your next stage in life. But when that time comes, you deserve to have someone you trust guide you through the process. And by trusting us to pass on your legacy, it gives someone else the chance to create their own. Every auction has a story. Let us share yours.
At Advanced Grain Handling Systems, we're your full-service grain dryer and bin project partner. We'll handle everything from start to finish.
These guys are all in one. That was one of the big draws. They were the general. They took care of the electrical. They took care of the cement, took care of everything.
Whether your next project is big or small, let our team help with it all. Visit advancedgrainhandling.com.
Hamilton System Inc. in Drayton, North Dakota is the North American distributor of the Fantini corn and sunflower header. Both the L03 corn head and the G03 sunflower head have a simple, high-efficiency, low-maintenance PTO-driven gearbox, which eliminates slippage and power loss even in the most trying conditions. These heads are built with a solid one-piece frame and tubular steel construction that will withstand the harshest field conditions. Available in models from 4 to 18 rows, they adapt to any combine and come with a 4-year warranty on the transmission units.
Go beyond the headlines with an AGWEEK membership. Get in-depth agribusiness reporting, original farm and ranch stories, and fact-based research for the most comprehensive ag news in the upper Midwest. Experienced ag journalists bring you exclusive ag news, insights, and policy updates you won't find anywhere else. Become a member today and get unlimited access to AGWEEK and AGWEEK TV.
Consumers learned about the region's #1 industry at Ag Day at the Pavilion in Sioux Falls. The annual event features South Dakota farm groups highlighting various commodities. Kids could pet a pig or baby chicks and learn about the corn and soybean meal they eat as feed. They also participated in other family-friendly activities to bring the farm to the city, like planting soybeans.
Agriculture being our #1 industry in South Dakota and people being further removed from the farm, days like this are important so that we all understand where our food comes from.
Ag Day at the Pavilion was also a celebration of National Ag Week. Stories you'll only see on agweek.com and AgWeek magazine this week. Admitting it had outdated information, the EPA has lifted restrictions on the use of enlist herbicides in 134 counties, including 6 in Minnesota. And the University of Minnesota is planning a $220 million ag and food systems research and innovation complex near Austin. Thanks for watching this week's edition of AgWeek TV. Remember, for all your ag news, go to agweek.com and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You have yourself a great and safe week.